Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about something fun, video game crossovers. So, I made a list of all the crossovers in video games that I know, and we're going to try and link it all into one big universe. This does include guest characters, so if you don't think that counts, then too bad, because I do. So, we're going to start at a pretty basic one, which is Mario, because he's crossed over with everything. So, at the Olympic Games, he's crossed over with Sonic. Samus from Metroid has been asleep in Princess Peach's bed. Pac-Man has joined him for racing. Mario has also decided him and Luigi and Samus were gonna have their cars in Rocket League. Both Donkey Kong and Bowser were in a Skylanders game, which of course also ties into Donkey Kong, but that's where he first came from. Link was he was also asleep in Super Mario RPG in a hotel, and also he also decided to join Mario for racing. Mario was also the referee in the original Punch-Out. Mario and the gang were also there for Kirby's fight against King Dedede in a couple of the games. In Mario Galaxy, you can also find the main ship from Pikmin, Olimar's ship. Both Birdo and Little Mac were both in a game called Captain Rainbow. Of course, a couple years ago, Mario crossed over with the Rabbids. The villagers from Animal Crossing joined Mario in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Okay, so the main enemies from Metroid were also in a Kid Icarus game, so that ties in Kid Icarus. Sonic, in one of his older racing games, he had the Pyro from TF2, Wreck-It Ralph from Disney, and Banjo-Kazooie in it. Skylanders, of course, ties in Spyro, because he was the main selling point of the first game, and they had Crash Bandicoot as a guest character. Punch-Out also ties over Street Fighter, because Mike Tyson was in the second Punch-Out game, and there was a character named M. Tyson in Street Fighter. Street Fighter, because of Marvel vs. Capcom, had a bunch of tie-ins. So Marvel, Final Fight, Resident Evil, Devil May Cry, Mega Man, Ghosts and Goblins, Darkstalkers, Monster Hunter, and Phoenix Wright were all in the Marvel vs. Capcom games. Pac-Man, his company a long time ago had sort of like a Mario Party type game, and one of the things in there was Tekken. And you can also play as Pac-Man in the mobile game Crossy Road, so that ties that in. So TF2, there was a special mode of Surgeon Simulator that you could play as the medic and fix the Heavy. And Heavy was also in a game called Poker Night. Of course, they also added TF2 skins into Fall Guys. Poker Night, on top of TF2, also tied in games as Portal, Borderlands. They had Sam and Max, and then they had some TV shows. They had the Venture Brothers and Strong Bad. And Borderlands also tied in the game Fortnite, because they had the Psycho and Claptrap from Borderlands in it. So since Mario tied over with Rocket League, they also had the Batmobile and a Flash car, so that ties in DC. They had the Needles van from Twisted Metal, or his ice cream truck. They had the car from Back to the Future and a Ghostbusters car, so that ties in those four. Legend of Zelda, Link was in Soul Calibur. So Soul Calibur, a bunch of other guest characters were Spawn. They had Starkiller, Yoda, and Darth Vader from Star Wars. They had Kratos from God of War, and they had Ezio from Assassin's Creed. So Fortnite also ties in Marvel, because lately they've been having a bunch of Marvel stuff. They had John Wick, they had Batman and Aquaman from DC, they had, of course, all the Star Wars stuff, and then they also had Hopper and the Demogorgon from Stranger Things. So Disney, of course, ties in to Kingdom Hearts, which then ties in to Final Fantasy. Also, a while ago, there was a special version of Crossy Road that was all Disney, so that ties in Crossy Road again. And Spawn, you know that in MK11, he was a guest character, so that ties into Mortal Kombat. And so with Kratos, he was, so God of War also ties in Mortal Kombat because he was in MK9 as a guest character. And God of War, he was also a boss in Shovel Knight, and he was a guest character in Hot Shots Golf. So, so DC also ties to Mortal Kombat because of the Injustice and their guest characters to each other's games, and the first time DC teamed up with NetherRealm was the Mortal Kombat vs. DC universe. So some of the guest characters from Injustice were also the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Hellboy. And Mortal Kombat ties in a bunch of other stuff like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Predator, Alien, Terminator, Johnny Cage within a WWE game, RoboCop, and Raiden, Reptile, Scorpion, and Sub-Zero, I think, were all in a game called NBA Jam. Johnny Cage was in WWE. WWE characters were also in a fighting game called Brawlhalla, which is very similar to Super Smash Bros. And Brawlhalla also had a bunch of other crossovers such as Shovel Knight, Hellboy, Steven Universe, Tomb Raider, Adventure Time, Rayman, which is also tied back to the Rabbids, and Castlevania. So Shovel Knight has also tied over with quite a few things such as Yooka-Laylee, Rivals of Aether, and Battletoads were a boss battle in a Shovel Knight game. So Yooka-Laylee were also guest characters in another fighting game that's very similar to Smash Brothers called Brawlout. And since God of War tied to Hot Shots Golf, some of the other characters from that were Jak and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank. Jak and Daxter were also a crossover or guest characters in a game called Pain. And Star Wars, another thing they tie in is that there was Angry Birds Star Wars, so now Angry Birds is in it. And Angry Birds also had special things where they had the characters from the movie Rio, and they had Angry Birds Mortal Kombat tied in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He was also in a game called Dead by Daylight, and just recently, from the Halloween thing, they added him to Call of Duty for their Halloween thing this year. So since Leatherface ties into Dead by Daylight, they've had a bunch of other guest characters, such as Nightmare on Elm Street, which also tied into Mortal Kombat, of course, Saw, the Halloween, Stranger Things, Scream, Evil Dead, Left 4 Dead, and Silent Hill. And Call of Duty, of course, also has Saw, because they added Billy the Puppet from Saw, also with Leatherface for Halloween. And a long time ago, a Call of Duty soldier was in Tony Hawk Pro Skater. And also, since Brawlhalla ties in Tomb Raider, you can find Lara Croft in a Duke Nukem game. And in that same game, you can also find the Doom guy from the game Doom. So Tony Hawk Pro Skater also ties in Doom because he was a guest character. You could play as Spider-Man from Marvel, and you can play as Shrek, and you could play as Darth Maul and Jango Fett from Star Wars. Mortal Kombat tied in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He was also in a game called Dead by Daylight, and just recently, from the Halloween thing, they added him to Call of Duty for their Halloween thing this year. So since Leatherface ties into Dead by Daylight, they've had a bunch of other guest characters, such as Nightmare on Elm Street, which also tied into Mortal Kombat, of course, Saw, the Halloween, Stranger Things, Scream, Evil Dead, Left 4 Dead, and Silent Hill. And Call of Duty, of course, also has Saw, because they added Billy the Puppet from Saw, also with Leatherface for Halloween. And a long time ago, a Call of Duty soldier was in Tony Hawk Pro Skater. And also, since Brawlhalla ties in Tomb Raider, you can find Lara Croft in a Duke Nukem game. And in that same game, you can also find the Doom guy from the game Doom. So Tony Hawk Pro Skater also ties in Doom because he was a guest character. You could play as Spider-Man from Marvel, and you can play as Shrek, and you could play as Darth Maul and Jango Fett from Star Wars.